Next on BYUSN, how will you gauge success for BYU football in year one of the Big 12? Is it solely record or something bigger?
Plus, which BYU teams are most ready to compete for a Big 12 championship this year?
Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. Happy Wednesday, May 17th. I am Spencer Linton alongside AI art critic Jarom Jordan.
So Cosmo, the Cougar, tweeted that he asked AI to create an image of BYU mascot Cosmo the Cougar writing a poem in a meadow wearing a football uniform. Here are the results. The first one's just fine on the far right. Then the second one, Cosmo, is in human form here with a cougar head, and there's like a fox in the background / cougar, and then suddenly he morphs into like a centaur cougar thing. Yeah, dear AI, I'm scared of you.
Yeah.
Cosmo followed it up.
I love the caption from Cosmo's Twitter account. We're also scared.
It's getting weird, like today's show. Also on the program, Jeff Hanson of 24/7 Sports. Speaking of weird like us, we'll evaluate the post-spring transfers plus his fashion sense. Why RG3 is stoked for the new EA Sports College football game. Hilarious.
I think he's the most excited.
And Ty Detmer sits down with Tyler Haws in a new edition of The Mental Game.
All rise and shout. It is time for What's Trending.
Congratulations, Cougar Nation. It's been a long time coming, and here we are.
It's a whole new ball game now for BYU football, and I could not be happier.
He's going in, touchdown! Touchdown, Chase Roberts!
I'm really looking forward to doing some different things this year.
Cougar Nation, it's time to continue.
What's Trending, presented by Tim Daly Ford, part of the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. There are many ways to gauge success for your favorite team, your favorite players. When it comes to BYU football, specifically in year one of the Big 12, we want to know how all of you are going to gauge what success looks like in your realm, in your paradigm, Jarom, because there are several different things at play with BYU's uptick in competition and moving into a Power 5, but the history and tradition of winning in Provo, they all factor into this. How will you gauge success for BYU football in their inaugural Big 12 campaign?
Making a bowl game is the number one thing, outside of the record itself. The record obviously gives us that. Where BYU fits in the Big 12 standings will be interesting as well. Looking at the 3 Power 5 leagues that play 9 games, there are 2 that play 8. 61% finished 4 and 5 or better.
Okay.
Can BYU essentially be in the top 2/3 of Power 5 teams who at least kind of approximate 500? 4 and 5 would be acceptable, absolutely, in year one of the Big 12, because you're hoping you go at least 2-1 in non-conference. And then, there's other metrics out there that we'll look at, like SP Plus and FPI and SAGR and F+, Beta Rank. Also, this is one that doesn't weigh in holistically, but like a little bit, is does BYU's attendance at home games go up? Like, is it almost sold out almost every game? I'm interested to see kind of what LaVell Edwards Stadium looks like. Now, that doesn't weigh into how I perceive the entire season, but that is a factor that I'm going to look at. But yeah, if BYU makes a bowl game, that means you won at least 4 Power 5 games of those 10. And to me, that is good enough in year one.
It's hard to know, again, because of where BYU comes with their unique stance of, and this is based on the fan base and success of the past, like there is this idea that BYU is just going to come in, and because they've been playing an independent schedule, like it shouldn't be that much of a shock. And I don't think it will be, but there will still be somewhat of a difference. It's still a tougher situation for BYU. They've never played 10 Power 5s in an individual season. So with that in mind, how do you expect BYU all of a sudden to just maintain that they're going to win at least 8 games? I think that's too much to ask. That's too much to ask as far as just a baseline expectation. I set the over-under at 6.5. That is my expectation. If BYU can either beat Arkansas and then win 4 of the 9 Power 5 games they play in Big 12 competition, then you get to 7 and 5. If they lose to Arkansas, then I'm asking BYU to have a winning record in the Big 12. And maybe that's a little bit too much. 6 out of the 10 teams last year in Big 12 play finished with at least 4 wins. So yeah, what is the 60% out of 14 in league?
Yeah, it's Big 12, Pac-12, Big 10, right? Those combined, 61% of those teams go 4-5 or better.
And that's right, like 60% even. So 6 out of the 10 teams in the Big 12 last year were 4-5 or better. I feel like BYU is good enough to do that. But it's a 14-team conference, so where will they place? Like, that's the one thing.
And there's no divisions anymore.
No.
Like that is not a thing.
You get who you get on your schedule.
Yes.
If you're one of the top 2 teams, you play in the Big 12 title game.
Yes,
which
BYU will.
The one thing we have really not discussed is an expectation for where we hope or where we think BYU will finish in a 14-team conference.
That's June 3rd's trending 2.
Is it a top 8 finish? You know, something that we should tab as like, okay, yeah, if BYU can finish in the top, they finish 8th place. That's not even top half, Jarom. Like, if we ask BYU to finish top half.
That's first of the bottom half,
I feel like an 8th place finish is probably where I would zero in at with BYU going 4-5.
Yeah.
Right? If they go 5-4, then then they probably will finish in like the top half of the conference. 7th place. 1 game over 500.
8.4 would be your 60% spot, right, of the Big 12. So it's like, between 8th and 9th would be around 4-5 estimated based on what happened last year. Of course, that was last year. Year to year could be a little different.
An 8th place finish feels fair. Like, if I expect BYU to go 4-5.
I'd be fine with that.
4-5, I'm like, okay, you can finish in 8th place.
Yes.
If you're 5-4 in league, then I think you're at least 7th place.
Yeah, maybe you're 6th, depending on it. Now, listen, if Jaron Hall had returned, if Puka Nacua was back, if Blake Freeland was still there, maybe we feel like BYU should be 5-4, 6-3. Like the unknown of will Keaton Slovis be the USC guy his freshman year, or will he be the Pitt guy? Like, he's healthy. We expect him to be pretty good. Will Aiden Robbins be as good as he was last year at UNLV? Like, I'm not expecting 1,000-yard seasons from Aiden Robbins, but I would like somewhere in the 750 range. Mm-hmm. You know, how good is Darius Lassiter, receiver, and those 3 for BYU that come back in Cody Epps and Chase Roberts and Keanu Hill? How good are they? Can the O-line answer the call of last year's team was number 1 in pass blocking with PFF, number 12 in run blocking, arguably the best O-line BYU's maybe ever had. Kingsley Suamati is a first-round selection. Certainly you're confident there, but there's some other guys you're hoping are good. Like, how good is Caleb Etienne? Is Waylon Lapuahu good at guard? You lost Clark Barrington, who was an All-American guard. Will the defense be, like, significantly better? What does that look like? The unknown of that is why we are keeping things low-key. The first thing is Big 12, but the second is we don't exactly know what this BYU team is. Every year we're excited about that. When you return a quarterback and you return a couple of the skill positions and the coordinator, blah, blah, you got to have a sense of what you have and what you could do. Even then, we might not know in the Big 12, but because we have those 2 big unknowns, that's why we're like, let's just make a bowl game and then see where we're at.
Yeah, and again, it all depends on how you define success. Like, what is success? Some people say, well, it's only winning a championship. So it's competing for championship.
So BYU's only had one.
If you don't win a championship, then everything else is secondary. Well, okay,
that mindset's pretty naive.
It's pretty crazy, right? I understand everybody wants to shoot for the stars. Certainly the players and coaches. They want to go.
You can use that in your summer sales.
Compete for a championship.
Stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Go and do your thing. Mm-hmm. But success to me, and I'm trying really hard to like keep the blue goggles far away here, is getting to a bowl game. That's the baseline for success.
Yes.
The baseline.
Sure. Yeah.
To call anything successful in Big 12 year 1, you got to get to a bowl game.
You check that box.
Everything above that is just like an uptick. So if BYU wins 7 games, then it's like that.
Cool.
It's another step in the right direction of greater success. If they have a winning record in the Big 12, that to me feels like the next step.
Yeah, because then you're at least 7.
At least
5,
7 wins.
if not more.
So it kind of goes in that order. Make a bowl game, win, finish top 8 in the conference, and then above that, it's all gravy, man. Like, it's all
Although
good.
gravy, I don't like that phrase, because gravy
it's all whipped cream.
Gravy is necessary.
It's all cream cheese.
I need the gravy.
It's all whatever
all
your
cream
favorite
cheese.
topping is on your favorite dessert.
Yeah, well, I just want that to be a component, Topic 2, expanding the convo out a little. Which BYU teams are ready to compete for a Big 12 championship in year 1?
We have already spoken about this week. In fact, we talked to the head coach of said team earlier this week, it's BYU women's soccer. Like, they come to the forefront immediately, and probably because they're one of the first teams to start, but I just feel like they're ready to go right now. They return basically everybody from a team that went to the Sweet 16 last year and is 2 years removed from making a run to the national championship match. Like, why would we not expect that team to compete with TCU for a Big 12 championship? I think those
TCU's competing with BYU.
I think those will be.
I think it's that
first and second when the preseason poll comes out. When the coaches' poll is released, I believe that TCU and BYU will be 1 and 2.
I believe BYU will be.
I hope they are. I hope
do.
they are.
I think
and
the coaches
that is
will
quite
respect
the
BYU
nod to say, hey, you're new to the conference, but we straight up think you're the best.
I believe that will happen.
So don't be shocked, if that's the case. But women's soccer and then cross country has such a good thing going. Here's a question. Was it tougher for cross country in the West Coast Conference than it will be in the Big 12? I feel like they're pretty comparable conferences. Running was Oklahoma State's really good.
Iowa State's awesome.
Iowa State's good.
Okay, yes. In men's cross country and women's, BYU becomes the best team immediately.
Yeah.
So last 2 years in men, BYU took 2nd and 7th at nationals. Iowa State was 7th and 2nd. The last 2 years, Oklahoma State 13th.
Like, how do they compare to like a Portland? Portland has a great running program, right?
But in men's only. Like women's, they're not a player. BYU's the number one teams ready to compete in the Big 12 are cross country, men and women. And then outdoor track and field, it goes Texas and then BYU in men, and then women, BYU's got some competition with Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, which is interesting. Yeah, women's volleyball walks in as the second best team in the league already.
You think?
They really do.
In a conference that's going to have 5 teams
right
in the rank last year.
Yes, but looking at the last 8 years, BYU has consistently been that good. Like, they aren't like Baylor, Kansas. Baylor had a really nice 2019 with the Final Four. BYU had a nice 2018. I'm talking like Texas is clearly the best team, but BYU is like the second best team by a hair right now.
Ooh.
So they won't win the title this year, but next year when Texas is gone, I think BYU could win the women's volleyball championship in the Big 12.
The throne opens up a little bit, and you can go and battle for it.
If BYU to me is like a one-pin hitter away from competing a little better with Texas. But BYU is still going to be really good. Football, you're not competing for a Big 12 title right out of the gate. We hope that's soon. Men's basketball is not competing for a Big 12 title right away. We hope that happens at some point later. But men's basketball is survival. Like, that one is just don't cut the program after next year.
Women's basketball.
They are going to – men's basketball is going to have some nice wins like we've talked about.
For sure. Marriott Center Magic.
But that one is like, okay, we're going to – brace ourselves for winning a third of the games, which is a weird feeling. But, like, all 6 of those wins would be really good wins.
Yes. Women's basketball, and we've said it on the show, now that Lauren Gustin is back, we feel like they're good enough to finish top 5, top 6.
Yes. And give that group, like, 2.5 years.
It could be something special.
And then they could be pretty
good. Could be something special.
Yep.
When you get into the spring sports, softball is so dominated by Oklahoma. Like, Oklahoma
State, Texas, Baylor, they're all good.
Oklahoma is like the Alabama. No, Oklahoma is better than Alabama.
Oklahoma is what Georgia was last year.
Alabama
in football.
Or Oklahoma is basically a semi-professional softball team.
They're amazing.
They are ridiculous. There's Oklahoma, and then there's a significant gap, and then there's everybody else.
Baseball's got a lot of work to do as well in the Big 12. Yeah.
The fall sports, it's fun because
fall sports are better than the spring sports at BYU right now overall.
Yeah.
I'm not Big 12 aside, just straight up are.
All right. Our question of the day, besides record, how would you gauge success for BYU football's first year in Big 12 play? Tyson Peterson answers on Facebook. I want the Big 12 to see just how much BYU football adds to the conference. They'll see high viewership of games. They'll see how well BYU fans travel. And lastly, they'll see another 4 or 5 players taken in the draft.
More on that coming up in the whip.
4 or 5. Okay, we think we've got pretty good, chance at 3.
It's been 7 the last 3 years. 4 or 5 would be nice. I don't have 4 or 5 penned for next year.
So the football expectations is interesting, and I'll add this final thought, and we can get to this later. But with how wide open the Big 12 conference is this year, it seems like it is.
You're talking about in football?
Football, anybody's race.
Wait, I thought Texas was back.
And coming off of what TCU did last year, it does add a level of intrigue for every fan base, not just BYU fans. It's like,
sure,
okay, if it's this wide open, why couldn't our team legitimately compete for a conference championship.
Blue goggles are on that one.
Right?
Blue goggles are on.
I'm saying every team, every school should feel like, other than Texas, who has like just annual high expectations,
they should,
and Oklahoma, like Texas and Oklahoma, like the other programs like UCF, like I'd be wearing the UCF goggles if I was a UCF fan right now.
I would too. They return like more known.
Why not?
Than BYU.
Yeah.
Okay, baseball needs to sweep Pepperdine this weekend. Hope Gonzaga sweeps Santa Clara to make the WCC tournament. So every pitch matters in this one. Tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, listen on the BYU radio app, watch on the BYU TV app.
Joining us next, he is a BYU sports insider, a recruiting specialist from 24/7 Sports. Jeff Hanson is back on the show. Where does he expect BYU to finish in the Big 12 standings in year one? This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968.
At BYU, we believe wholeheartedly in expanding joy, and that joy comes from learning and serving. Some of the best, most lasting learning happens when we serve, when we experience, when we connect in real, lasting ways. It's what we call inspiring learning. Learning that inspires us to create a better world, to do and be better. After all, light shared is the best kind of light.
Introducing the Truck for Adventure. The all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier doesn't compromise on power or comfort. This midsize truck was redesigned to incorporate the latest technology and designs for safety, comfort, and convenience. Plus, with up to 6,700 pounds of towing capacity and best-in-class horsepower, it's rugged enough for adventure and still safe enough to transport all your favorite people. Where's your new Frontier? You'll find it at Tim Daly Nissan Southtown and South Jordan.
He knows that he's different. He knows that things are hard for him.
Taking the leg was how we could save her life.
I think God put the animals in our path, and I think it is up to us to care for them.
It's like dream come true kind of stuff.
Good job, buddy. You've completed her life.
He loves it so much.
There are happy endings to tragic situations.
Throw to the jet. Touchdown to Cody Epps.
All that pain, it done made me to a monster.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. We are live in Studio B with your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I am Spencer Linton, teamed up with Jarom Jordan. Our first guest today is a man who is trying to create a legacy of being the man who normalized wearing untucked polos and Jordans to conference meetings. He is Jeff Hanson.
Absolutely.
Jeff, how is your venture? How is this new, I guess, ideal that you have put forward in the fashion world?
I mean, it's tough because when people don't look at me, they don't see the epitome of fashion. So I've got a real hurdle that I have to clear before people start to listen to me. But like comfort over quality or something. I don't know. I think people will grasp it eventually.
Yes, and this season we'll take comfort and quality with BYU football. We've been discussing this in our question of the day, Jeff. What's your opinion on this? Besides record, how will you gauge success in year one of the Big 12 for BYU football?
Competitiveness. I mean, there were games, right? You think back to that Arkansas game that I think people want to say it was competitive for a little while, but it really wasn't. You think back to that Liberty game. And even going back over the last few years, you know, Wisconsin in 2017. I mean, that's the kind of like attitude that I think people across the country have about BYU going into next year. You know, over under win totals are anywhere between 4.5 and 6 at sports books. You've got advanced rankings putting BYU at 13th or 14th in the conference, you know, FPI, things like that. So I think that I think BYU's better than what a lot of those prognostications would have you believe, but I think that the way to really gauge success is competitiveness, is BYU in games. They may not win every game that they're in, but do they have a chance to win? Are you still watching in the fourth quarter? Have you turned off the TV because it's not a game?
It's another, interesting metric. Steve Young would call it like an excitement factor. Right? Does BYU have that ability to engage a viewer and keep you watching to the end of the game? So it's a fun point you bring up. Jarom and I were just discussing the baseline for success we feel is most notably just making a bowl game, so winning 6 games, however you can piece that together, whether it's, hey, a hot 3-0 start and then you find a way to win 3 games in conference, whatever, just get to 6. For me, Jeff, I feel like a top 8 finish in a 14-team conference is probably the next step up. Like, hey, if you finish top 8 in year 1, maybe that means you win 7 games overall. So where do you stand on win total as far as gauging success, the bowl game topic, and where BYU finishes in the place they finish in the Big 12 Conference?
Yeah, it's a good question, Spencer, because there's a lot of different ways that you can look at it, right? I mean, would you feel good with 7 wins if 2 of them were Texas and Oklahoma? Or, if they start off 4-0 somehow, do you still feel good with 7 wins at the end of the season if they finish, 3 and whatever down the stretch? And so it's kind of interesting to look at it that way. I think I like that top half of the conference. I think that's probably a good barometer. The whole conference, really top to bottom, with the exception of really Texas and Oklahoma, but who knows what they are from a year-to-year basis anymore. The rest of the conference, the rest of the new Big 12, there's not a juggernaut. I mean, there's nobody that you're like deathly afraid of. Even TCU went to the playoff last year. You're not terrified to play TCU. So it's really tough for me to say in May, right? But if we have to, I like the idea of a bowl game, and I like finishing in the top half of the conference. I think that's probably the best way to look at it right now. But honestly, I look at the schedule and I see a really tough October. But then September and November, I think BYU can squeeze out 8 wins, and it wouldn't be surprising. I think they could end up with 4 wins, and that wouldn't be surprising either. But there's a path to 8 wins, and we're looking at a pretty good season going into a bowl game.
That'd be awesome. And BYU's really got to butter the bread in the first 6. I'm hoping for 4 in the first 6, and then down the stretch, it's like, okay, yeah, if you could get 3 or 4, that's great. If you only get 2, you're making a bowl game. But I really think a strong start is important. Will you ever expect BYU to not make a bowl game in a season? You mentioned 4 could happen, but in terms of expecting a BYU team to not make a bowl game, we will always expect them to make a bowl game, will we not?
I mean, we have to, right? But I think a year to year, when you look at a roster year to year, it all comes down to the quarterback position at BYU. I think at the Big 12 level, what BYU loses is the ability to win 8 games when they get 4 quarterback play. They've always got to play at a high level at that position in order to get to a bowl game. Fortunately, BYU's had really good quarterback play over the last 10 or 15 years, but we've seen, you go back to 2010 and some of those early independent years, there was some up and down quarterback play, and BYU was still able to get to a bowl. Those days are gone. BYU's got to do really, really well at the quarterback position to maintain that level of bowl game expectancy.
Well, that leads me into our next question, Jeff, and that is right now, is BYU at the quarterback position ready to compete in the Big 12, in your opinion?
With Keaton Slovis, yes. As long as Keaton Slovis is healthy, he's proven in his career that he can do things at a really high level. Yeah, the year at Pitt wasn't great, but Pitt isn't great. I mean, other than Kenny Pickett, that's kind of an exception to the rule at Pitt, they really haven't had a ton of quarterback success. So it's hard for me to put too many eggs in that basket. I look at what he did at USC, and I think that's much more comparable to the BYU offense, to what Aaron Roderick's going to ask him to do. So as long as Keaton Slovis is healthy, yes, I think BYU's ready to roll at quarterback. If he goes down with an injury, there's a ton of talent, right? I think Jake Retzlaff is great. And I think Ryder Burton, I've been, banging the drum on the Ryder Burton hype train since he was at Springville, and nobody really believed me. But I think in the spring game, he showed enough that people are starting to see, like, well, this kid's got something. And I think they're talented, but sometimes talent doesn't translate, right? And so I wish BYU had more depth. I wish they had a little bit more experience at the quarterback position. Because if Slovis goes down, it's a crapshoot at that point. The talent is certainly there, but even Zach Wilson struggled in his first year. It was up and down, right? That Northern Illinois game still haunts my dreams.
Too soon, Jeff.
And it is. It's been 5 years, and it's not long enough. And that's really what I see for BYU. If Slovis goes down, is you're just going to have those growing pains, no matter who that quarterback 2 is.
If only Brady Christensen had scored on that tackle-eligible play, we would have not brought up NIU.
That's right.
Okay, BYU has added some pieces from the transfer portal in kind of the post or middle of spring, post-spring timeline. Who are some of the most impact players, in your opinion, among that group?
I mean, we talked about Slovis. We've talked about Aiden Robbins. I think everybody talks about those guys. Eddie Heckard. A guy that I'm really excited for that really nobody is talking about right now is Weber State's Jake Eichhorn. The dude can play. And he played at Beaver High School. He was a Max Prep small school All-American. Beaver, I think they were a 2A school at the time. I don't know what they are now. They might still be 2A. But super small school. Nobody really recruited it. And BYU didn't have a need to go down to Beaver. They could get more proven, more ready-to-play offensive linemen. So Jake ends up going to Weber State and immediately breaks into that starting lineup. Jake Eichhorn's been a Power 5 level player since he was at Beaver. I mean, that's how good he can be. He was just at Beaver, so nobody saw him. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. He's pretty versatile. I hope he plays tackle, but I think he has the ability to slide inside if they need him to. And that versatility, the ability to be multiple across the offensive line, I think is going to get Jake Eichhorn on the field. Maybe not in the starting lineup on week 1, but if there's an injury, I think Jake is one of the first guys that Coach Funk is looking at to fill the void.
Hey, we've got love for Beaver High School. Didn't we see a Beaver High School quarterback play in the Rose Bowl not too long ago? Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. Okay, so
that's true. There we go.
We don't have to spend any more time talking about where that quarterback plays right now, but I'm just giving credit to the Beaver High School Beaver football program, okay? Jeff, I do want to know and get your take on where BYU is most ready by position to compete in the Big 12 if it's not quarterback. We already talked about Keaton Slovis in the quarterback position. You said you wanted more depth. Where is BYU most ready from a skill standpoint and depth standpoint to compete in the Big 12?
It's the offensive line, and I don't think it's particularly close. I mean, that group is ready to roll. They are every sense of the word, they're a Big 12 group. I mean, from the first round type talent, they've got that in Kingsley. Connor Pay could work his way there. Caleb Etienne, he could certainly work his way into the draft too. So they've got the top end talent. And realistically, guys, I think that BYU probably goes 10 or 12 deep at the offensive line by the time fall camp is over. That's quality depth, right? I mean, that's not, you've got 6 guys and your sixth man is a rover who's going to have to play somewhere. You've got 2 solid units that I think Aaron Roderick would feel really comfortable with in any given game on any given week. So the offensive line, and it's not close. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I really like BYU safeties. People have been kind of worried about the safety spot, but you add Raider Demooney into that mix. Talon Alfrey had a year to shake off the mission rust. Preston Rex is there, and then obviously led by Malik Moore and Micah Harper. I think that's 5 really quality safeties. And then at that 6, safety 6, you've got guys with experience like Ethan Slade. So the safety position on defense, I think, is in a really good spot, and that offensive line is going to be in the top half of the Big 12.
Give us a sense of where BYU has focused and what positions they're looking at and assessing for the 2024 recruiting class.
2024 has been interesting. I've had a lot of questions that have come my way from fans looking for more commitments, more offers going out. Like, why is there not more action in the 2024 class? Here we are in May, and there's only three kids who are currently committed. And it's interesting. This has been like the weirdest recruiting cycle for BYU. You look at all of the attrition that they had in the transfer portal, all of the new additions. Jay Hill has essentially, working with Aaron Roderick, right? They've added a full recruiting class almost out of the transfer portal here in the last 90 days or so. They've been working hard on 2023, even though it's May. And so as they start to turn the page to 2024, I think you're going to see a huge emphasis on edge rushers, really having length to secure the edge. to get after the quarterback. I had a player who told me a few weeks ago that Coach Hill, Coach Papinga, they have a really simple philosophy on the defense for the defensive ends, and it's get to the quarterback. And if you're not getting to the quarterback, you're not going to play, period. Like you have one job and that's it. And I think they need to load that stable room with more guys who can get to the quarterback, or I don't know who's going to play. So I think you're going to see a pretty big emphasis there. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they need a lot of skill positions. BYU needs to have more speed. That's not really an indictment on the roster as it is, but more of a projection into the fast Big 12 conference with these high-powered offenses. You're going to have to score. You're going to have a ton of speed, and you're going to have a ton of depth at your playmakers to hang in November when Oklahoma State wants to run up the score to a 50-plus point game. It's going to be tough.
Fantastic analysis from Jeff Hanson of the 24/7 Sports Network. Jeff, we always appreciate the time. And to quote your tweet, the sports jacket or suit expectation needs to be burned with fire. We wish you the best in that venture, my friend.
From your mouth to God's ears, Spencer. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff. Oh, great personality. Jeff Hanson on BYU Sports Nation.
I do love an untucked polo. I've been untucking the polo for a long time. We did a photo shoot like in the fall, and they were like, hey, does he have to tuck in the polo? I go, I'm not going to tuck in the polo. I'm sorry. I'm going to be that guy.
It's your thing. It's your style.
I don't want to.
It's your style. I mean, you're a gold chain, untucked polo guy, right?
That's how I roll, apparently. If you missed any interviews, Deep Blues, fashion advice from Jeff Hanson, shows or games, you can find them on BYUSN.com or download the free BYU TV app.
On the way, why is Robert Griffin III so pumped for the new EA Sports college football video game? Like, maybe the most excited of anyone.
It's awesome.
This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
If you're looking to build your brand awareness and increase market share as BYU moves into the Big 12, this is the place, BYU Athletics. We can provide the tools you need to make sure your company is seen and heard. BYU Athletics is where you can align your products and services with loyal fans that cheer for our Cougars. And they can also help your business win. Learn more about what a partnership with BYU Athletics and your company will look like. After all, this is the place. Email sponsorship at byu.edu today.
My name is Spencer Finnegan. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. During my sophomore year, I got married to my sweetheart, Mary, and there's tons of unexpected expenses when it comes to marriage. We were looking for scholarships. I found the replenishment grant, and my local alumni chapter gave me a grant to help me focus in on school. I'm so excited to, now that I've graduated, give back to those students that are coming to BYU in the future.
The heroes are taking over Saturday mornings on BYU TV. Heroes who are brave, smart, and wield magical powers. Heroes who are good friends, problem solvers, and kind to everyone. Heroes who work together to lift and inspire, to make someone's day. Watch your favorite heroes in action Saturday mornings on BYU TV, and then go be a hero yourself.
Make sure you follow the show on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
Welcome back to Studio B. I'm Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan. Let's get to today's headlines.
Men's golf finished day 2 in 5th place, above the cut line. Top 5 make it to get into the NCAA championships at 8 over. Today, BYU 5 under.
No, baby.
So they're 3 over for the tournament. They are tied for second at the moment. Again, it's early on day 3, but tied for second place. Top 5 go to the NCAA championships. And BYU hopes to continue this and make the NCAA championship. Zach Jones third individually at the regional at 3 under. He is 1 under today.
He's your West Coast Conference individual medalist and champion. And I said this to you during the break, Jarom. Men's golf has done this over the past 5 or 6 tournaments. They typically have like one day where they all just go super low. Hopefully this is the day.
They've shown up on day 3 so far.
BYU softball takes home a handful of major West Coast Conference awards, including Hunter Ava as the WCC Player of the Year. Freshman Ailana Agbayani, fun fact, daughter of former New York Met and MLB stand-up Benny Agbayani, receives the WCC Defensive Player of the Year honors, and pitcher Haley Morrow is named the WCC Freshman of the Year.
4 Cougars were also named to the first team, including Agbayani, Ava, as well as Kaysen Korth and Violet Zavodnik, Maddie Bejarano, Martha Epinesa, Haley Morrow, Chloe Temples, and Tristan Turlington were all named to the second team.
Let's stay with more softball fun. BYU has also signed pitcher Olivia Laney, a 5'11" left-handed star from Charlotte, North Carolina. She'll join the team next season, along with 2 other pitchers in the recruiting class. So she's the 4th player overall announced, 3rd pitcher in Gordon Aiken's 2023 BYU recruiting class.
And Daniel Schneemann, second baseman for the AAA Columbus Clippers, went 2 for 5 last night with a double, hoping he gets a shot and making it with the Guardians. Unfortunately, the Guardians have their second baseman in Andres Jimenez, who they signed for a 7-year, $106 million deal. But shortstop is open. He's previously been a shortstop. They've called up a couple of guys. Nothing stuck. He's not one of the top 30 prospects listed right now, but maybe he gets a shot. He's having a great year at AAA.
Yes, he is. He has had a fantastic last 3 weeks specifically. In fact, he was featured in a SportsCenter Top 10 play in the last 24 hours. He was going for the ball. It flipped out of his glove, and his buddy from left field came in and snatched it and grabbed it. Yeah. So he said, I owe that guy, I think it was, I owe that guy Chipotle or something. Apparently they like going to Chipotle.
I went to a Guardian spring training game, and I hit up Daniel, but unfortunately he did not play that day. But maybe next year.
Daniel Schneemann, AAA. Let's go. Those are today's headlines. Now let's whip it. The Cougar Whiparound presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
ESPN's Michael Rothstein reports FBS players can opt into being included into the new EA Sports College Football game. How pumped are you for this?
I'm super pumped, but I'm not nearly as pumped as Robert Griffin III, who tweeted out the following, and I quote, EA Sports College Football comes out next summer. FBS players can opt in to have their names, likeness in the game, and get paid for it. Per Mike Rothstein, I remember being a white quarterback with dreads from Montana with no arm sleeve one year and Hawaiian the next. Those days are gone.
One time, early in the show's history, when we had fewer children and less commitments, we had like a hangout where I slept over at your house and we played college football 2014. It was so fun. I used to create my own players that'd be 7 feet tall, like 350 pounds with like 99 speed and 99 everything. I can't wait to have this, but it will be fun to have, like, if you're Malik Moore, you're like, yeah, I can be in the game.
Yes, there's no more having to download the code of the people that have actually designed it with the names that actually match the players.
Yes.
And
I keep a PS3 with 2014 so that I can still do it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's fun.
One more year. BYU is one of 18 FBS schools to have had 7 or more offensive players drafted into the NFL in the last 3 years, which is 3rd most in the Big 12 over that span. Okay? Jarom, will BYU be the Big 12's best offensive team once Oklahoma leaves for the SEC?
It'll be interesting because TCU, Kansas, and Houston and BYU were all in the top 20 last year in points per play. Hard to know what TCU is going to be. Kansas at 9th is surprising. Houston was 11th. BYU
That's why Jalen Daniels is getting so much love.
He's getting a lot of love. He deserves it. Yards per play, it was Texas, TCU, BYU in the top 25. I'm not sure about that, but in terms of the draft and the individuals BYU is producing, I love that.
Yeah, this is what BYU needs to be. BYU is an offense school. They're an offense school. We love Jay Hill on the defense. Fantastic. In the Big 12,
get enough stops.
We need to be the BYU offense of old.
Fan-sided writer Tristan Freeman gave offseason grades to each Big 12 men's basketball team. He gave BYU an A-.
Wow.
What do you think?
I feel like that's favorable. I know BYU did some great things in the transfer portal and picked up some key pieces for sure. I didn't know it was an A-, so I'd probably put it like a B+.
Yeah, I'd go somewhere in the Bs. But really good. I like seeing the A-. We like the pieces that BYU's added. Wonder if there's still one out there. We'll see.
Ali Khalifa, Dawson Baker, Quest Glover. Like, apparently, Tristan Freeman really likes those three.
And we like Tristan.
We hope it works out. ACC meetings are happening this week and Florida State Athletic Director told reporters yesterday that multiple models are being discussed, Jarom, to solve revenue distribution, including a merit-based model. So basically, if you win more games, you deserve more money from your TV
Probably
contract.
more nuance to it as well.
Will this catch on in the other conferences?
This is what BYU wanted in the Mountain West. Complained about the Mountain contract. Why is Wyoming getting the same amount of money as us? And certainly the ACC looking for opportunities to make more money, but that means someone else is going to make less money.
I feel like there's so much red tape there.
That's weak. I don't think it's going to work. If the SEC's not doing it, why would the ACC?
Well, the
because
irony
they have
here is,
enough money. But like Alabama could claim this easily, so could Georgia.
The irony here is in the ACC, it's been Clemson, right? Like, so does
Florida
Clemson?
State's not actually been a massive player.
Outside of Clemson, it's just been. There's a reason ESPN does the ACC Wheel of Destiny in the what is it? Is it the Coastal Division?
I don't know.
Regardless,
Virginia went to the Orange Bowl because Clemson went to the playoff.
One of the divisions is just like your champion is like 5-4, right?
BYU should have gone to the ACC. Wrong conference, apparently.
Up next, BYU's all-time leading scorer in basketball, Tyler Haws, speaks with the Heisman Trophy winner Ty Detmer about the importance of mental health and how Ty developed mental strength. Fascinating stuff. This is BYU Sports Nation.
My two favorite ties.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Does your dream of home ownership feel impossible? At Mountain America, we want to remind you the dream is alive. We are here to craft a personalized mortgage loan based on your needs. You can live your dream. And now, for a limited time, receive a free appraisal. Our one-on-one guidance and quick application process will bring your dream to life. Reach out to a Mountain America mortgage expert today.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork offers a large inventory of Ford vehicles, including a selection of cars and trucks, providing a range of transportation choices. From the Ford Fusion sedan and the Edge crossover SUV to a range of pickups including the F-150. Each product line comes with options to enhance performance, comfort, and safety. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Thing is ours. Whoa! No one else can know about it until we figure out what it is. Agreed? Agreed. We're supposed to look out for each other. All this time, I've been searching for us.
It chose you for a reason.
We're in this together.
You're the best friends I've ever had.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. Spencer Linton and Jarom Jordan live from Studio B. The Mental Game is a new series where Tyler Haws sits down with former athletes and coaches and essentially breaks down the importance of mental health and how to train your mind for success on and off the playing surface. Haws recently sat down with legendary quarterback and Heisman Trophy winner Ty Detmer and discussed how developing mental strength during hard times was able to help Ty Detmer's career be so successful for so long.
Ty, welcome to the Mental Game. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Want to start with, you've accomplished so much in your football career and in your personal life. What role has your mentality, your mindset played in your success in your life?
Well, I think that's probably the biggest part of it. I mean, you look at guys playing college football or even in the NFL, athletically, there's not a big difference in a lot of guys. And I've always tried to tell our guys, it's the guys that put time in mentally, and especially at the quarterback position, it's the mental approach more than anything. And so I feel like that helped me along the way, being able to shake things off, being able to have a little mental toughness and thick skin. And playing Philly, you got to learn to, have some thick skin and have some confidence in yourself, that kind of thing. But I think for most people, it's the mental side of things, especially in sports.
So, Ty, was there ever a time at BYU when you were nervous about being the guy and stepping up and being, that next great quarterback at BYU?
I don't remember being nervous about, having to be the guy. I got to play some my redshirt freshman year, kind of some backup role, come in at half. A couple games came back and won. A couple games we didn't. But I remember being excited about it, and kind of that sophomore year, Sean missed spring practice. I kind of won the job at that time, and it was like, all right, let's go.
You were fired up. You were ready for it.
I was excited, and you're young, you're dumb. You don't. Maybe I didn't realize what it all entailed, but I knew when I got on campus and seeing the All-American pictures in the team room and the Davey O'Brien medals on the wall that, man, it would be great if I had a chance to be one of those guys. And that chance was there. So it wasn't nervous to be in that role or scared to be the guy. It was more of an excitement and just ready to go, ready to take it on. And so I think if you're nervous and you play scared and you're worried about things, you're going to play tight and grip the ball a little tighter, maybe hold it a little longer. And so, most of the guys I've played with were able to go out there and play with confidence and cut it loose and make plays. Brett didn't worry about anything. He just went out there and threw it. And sometimes ignorance is bliss,
Yes.
So, when you're having confidence, and Lavelle instilled that, like, hey, you're the guy, let's go. And
he gave you assurance.
Looking back, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. He gave me the confidence that I was going to be in there and I was going to be the guy, and didn't have to look over my shoulder.
Did you ever think it would lead to all the success at BYU and become a Heisman Trophy winner?
No, that just kind of happens a little bit along the way. My sophomore year, we played well. I think that game against Penn State in the bowl game, we lost, but we threw for 500 and something yards against Penn State. And as a kid, I'd watched Penn State play on TV, and they shut down Miami in their bowl game, and it was like, man, this is Penn State defense. That's what they were known for. And then we threw for 500, and I think that game really, jump-started us for my junior year, and beating Miami and having a chance to win the Heisman Trophy at that point.
Yeah. So would you say that some of your biggest lessons came in football or outside of football? You have 4 daughters now, and
football doesn't prepare you for 4 daughters, that's for sure. But it does help you, when they make a mistake. Okay, hey, if you're willing to put the work in and move forward, let's go. It's not where you've been, it's where you're going. My dad used to say, it's not where you start, it's where you end up. And so, definitely football has been a big part of that. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to get hit hard. And are you going to get up and stand in there and throw it the next down? Are you going to be able to hang in there and when things get tough? And so, you might lose the game, but you win the season, And so, yeah, I mean, there's been things in our life that have happened that don't make you happy, but it's like, okay, it happened. What are we doing? And where are we going? So it's definitely a sport mentality. I think any sport is that way, where you have failure. It's okay to fail. It's all right to make a mistake, you know, as long as you're trying and you're willing to correct it, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. So Ty, in a lot of our conversations in the Mental Game series, people talk about staying in the moment, being present, and I think that looks different for everyone, and it's a challenge for everybody. How do you try and stay present in your life?
Yeah, I think, you know, my wife always says, hey, put your phone down, be where you are when you're there, you know? Yeah. And so it's kind of that way in everything we do. If we're on the practice field, you got to be locked in. You got to kind of hang in there and be dialed in. If you're in a meeting, you got to be present. You can't be distracted and be drifting off. And, you know, I mean, I've seen a lot of guys drift off and then get cut 2 weeks later, you know, because they didn't stay in the moment. They weren't present. They kind of thought they had it figured out and just going to do it my way. And so, you know, I think when people can master that, great things happen. And that's why some of the players, you know, your Hall of Famers, people like that are there because they're able to lock in. They're able to be in that moment and stay in it. Other guys show flashes. Maybe they're in and out. And so the consistent great players, I feel like, have always been able to be consistent because they've been able to stay in it.
Jarom, you said it, my two favorite ties. And if you want more insights from those guys, you can head over to our YouTube channel and watch the full 30-minute interview as well as other episodes with Lee Kamard, Kristen Kozlowski, Chad Lewis, and Bronson Kafusi. Great stuff from the Mental Game. And
football does not prepare you for 4 daughters. That's what we learned.
Can anything?
Literally
anything can prepare you adequately for 4 daughters?
Or like any children whatsoever. But that's super cool. And how cool to see like 2 of the greatest players in BYU history in different sports interact. That's pretty cool. I love what Ty's doing with that. Ty Detmer and Tyler Haws. Both of them. Both of them.
Yeah. Well said by you. Your 2 favorite ties.
No, 2 favorite ties. I have other ties in my house, but those are my 2 favorite ties.
Not the actual, I love it.
You know, just puns everywhere.
There's a lot happening
They're
there.
dripping up.
There's a lot happening there. All right, up next on BYU Sports Nation, we get to our Rise and Shout Out, and it deals with candy. I'll explain after the break. This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Luxurious blanket. Getting cozy with family and friends. A gift for everyone. Minky Couture, official luxury blanket of BYU Athletics.
Before I was a coach at BYU, or before I was even a player, I was a BYU fan.
We've got great energy as a team, but we have even better energy because of our fans, and it's absolutely magical.
When you hear the crowd roar, that makes it more exciting, more of an adrenaline rush.
The roar of the crowd, you can feel it on the floor, you can feel that energy, and it's unlike anywhere else in the country.
BYU Sports, it's all about the fans.
You know, if you're interested in baseball, there's a story that people here in this town tell that you probably ought to hear.
Just threw 98 miles an hour.
Do you know how many guys can throw the ball 98 miles an hour?
Not many.
You got your shot at baseball. You got hurt. Simple as that.
You know what we get to do today, Brooks? We get to play baseball.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
Jacob Robinson going to make more PBUs this fall, baby. BYU Sports Nation is on demand. Download the free BYU TV and BYU Radio apps. Subscribe, rate, and review the pod as well.
Our question of the day, besides overall record, how would you gauge success for BYU football's first year in the Big 12?
If both teams just have fun, Spence. That's what it's really about at the end of the day.
Jeff Hanson, our guest earlier today, said, is BYU competitive?
That was an answer that was off the board for me.
It's a unique take.
I liked that. AKA, okay, I like quantifying things. Is BYU within 2 scores in the losses?
Are they being blown out by anybody?
I don't want, like he said, and he forgot Oregon, which is good to forget. Oregon, Liberty, and Arkansas, I would argue, those were tough ones. BYU was not in those games at all. Taysom Hill was in every game at BYU, by the way, when he was the quarterback.
Never lost by
more than 2 scores.
Yeah. To
me, a blowout is 17+, hence the 17+ that emerged in year 1 of this show when I would say 17+. 3 scores is a blowout to me.
Yeah. Bowl game, minimum threshold for success.
Yep.
7 wins would be nice. Top 8 finish in a 14-team conference would be nice.
Massive accomplishment if you get A+. If BYU gets A+ in year 1.
Oh, wins?
Amazing.
Oh, my goodness.
No, first downs.
Oh. Well, I thought you said 8th place or better, because we're talking 8 wins or 8th place or better. Both are applicable here.
I just want to get past the 50-yard line.
Okay. Hey, LSU.
That was so bad.
Jordan Royal on Twitter says, I want to see if BYU's defense can keep the Cougars in games rather than relying solely on the offense.
Interesting.
I know Big 12 is known for shootouts, but any improvement from last year's defense will be a success.
Yeah.
Also, don't get blown out in any game. It goes to the competitive factor. Yeah. Make the opponent earn it.
Yeah, can the defense win BYU a couple games, Spence? Or is it going to be shootout style? Now, not every team is shootout type offense in the Big 12. There's some that want to ground and pound a little bit. But BYU is this hybrid mix of sometimes super explosive, other times dominant third down and short play.
Yes. In response to our question of the day, our elite voice of the day, presented by PAX Healthcare Elevate. I'm going to call an audible here. I'm going to give it to Hayden Shockley on Instagram, who says, sold out Cougar tails at all games.
That's how we gauge success. That is absolutely, absolutely the answer. No, that's awesome.
Today's Rise and Shout Out, presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. Let's give it to the women of BYU softball, specifically all those that were honored.
Yep.
Hunter Avez, the West Coast Conference Player of the Year.
Very, very well deserved.
Haley Morrow, the Freshman of the Year. Ailana Agbayani, the Defensive Player of the Year.
Yep. Bright future for this team. Obviously, some outgoing quality in the seniors, but yeah, while it wasn't a championship season, and that streak ends at, 13? Is that what it was?
13 straight.
BYU has a really good softball program, and we'll have some really fun games. Think about it. Think about who's coming to
Oklahoma.
Maybe Oklahoma comes to Provo next year.
I am hearing they're coming to Provo.
So they're coming to Provo. Let's go.
Also, Todd Judge, an assistant coach for BYU softball. I always wondered what he was giving to players when they rounded third base after a home run. It's Pop Rocks.
Can you eat that right now?
I'm not going to eat this
Do it.
You want me to eat the Pop Rocks right now?
Well, thanks to today's guests, Jeff Hanson and Ty Detmer. Sorry to spit it, ran out of time. For Spence and Jarom, shout out to Daniel Summerhead. See you back tomorrow in Studio B.
They are. And they're blue.
Oh, it's blue, too. Very nicely played.
Go Cougs.